Bible upon you at Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathan Lanawa, Hashabath, Bashalawam, Thowada, Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. The Ha'ayim Ma'ad Asherayim Akkad, Psalm 121. Anya Harayim Mayanyam Ya Oh Haharyam Mayan Yabawa Isaiah Yabawa Mayahawa Shai Shah Shemayim Warataza La'a Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yala'a Yanawam Shashamarka Hana La'a Yanawam Wala'a Yayashum Shashumar Yasharala Yahweh Shemaya Yahweh Tazalia Ayah Yad Yamyan Ya Yawamam Hashamash La'a Hakaya Wayarat La'a Baliyala Yahweh Yashamaya Mako Ra Yashamar Napasha Yahweh Yashamar Habalakia Wabuaya Ma'itha Wa'ai Aiwalam Bahasham Yahweh Shai Thowada Aman.
Psalms 121, a song of degrees. I will lift up mine eyes into the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber, behold. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper, the Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yashrala, hear, O Israel. Shema Yashrala, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Akkad. Shema Yashrala, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Akkad. Shema Yashrala, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Akkad.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Tapala Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abba Yanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwithka, Thaba'ah, Ratazawanka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashamayim, Matalanawa, Lakam, Yowum, Za, Wasalakanawa, Kababathnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kababathinawa, Wala'ah, Habiyanawa, O Nasaiwan, Abo, Hawashinawa, Mara, Kaya, Laka, Amalakwa, Waha'ala, Watha Parath, La'aywalam, Aman.
Luke chapter 11, verse 2. He said unto them, when you pray, say, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so on earth. Give us day by day our daily bread. Forgive us our sins. We also forgive everyone that is indebted to us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Amen. Ha'aishara Matazawaf, the Ten Commandments. La'ah, Yahaya, Laka, Alahayim, Akarium, Alpanya. La'ah, Thaisha, Laka, Pasol, Wala'ah, Thaibadam. La'ah, Talakwaka, Shamwa, Yahweh, Alahayaka, Lashua. Zakar, Ath, Hayawun, Hashabath, Lakodashwa. Kabad, Abiyaka, wa Amaka, La'a, Daratazak, La'a, Thana'a, La'a, Thagana, La'a, Tha'ina, Shakur, La'a, Thakama, Ko, Ashara, Lara'ayaka, Aman.
Deuteronomy 5:7. Thou shalt none other gods before me. Thou shalt not make me any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters beneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself unto them nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Keep the Sabbath day to sanctify it, as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy ox, nor thy ass, nor any of thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates, that thy manservant and thy maidservant may rest as well as thou. And remember that thou wast a servant in the land of Egypt, and that the Lord thy God brought thee out thence to a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore the Lord thy God commanded thee to keep the Sabbath day. Honor thy father and thy mother as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee, that thy days may be prolonged, and that it may go well with thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, neither shalt thou commit adultery, neither shalt thou steal, neither shalt thou bear false witness against thy neighbor. Neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's wife, neither shalt thou covet thy neighbor's house, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Aman. Yeshabah, be seated. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathan Lanawa, Par Yahagapin, Thwada Aman, La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Ath Yasha'ala. English edification or the translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai with Israel. A model upon you on Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem for the opening prayers. Barakatah Yahweh, Hagadol, Rakuam, Abiyah, Wanara'ah, Aliyawan, Malak, Shal, Shemayim, Wa'aratazah, Wakol, Debarim, Kayayim, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Adawanawa, Ahabnawa, Apalah, Yahweh Yahweh Shai, Zakarnawa, Yahweh, Baratazawan, Anka, Yasha'ala, Izarnawa, Banah, Wasa, Yasha'ala, O, Nanawa, Yum Yun, Aitha, Kayawamyam, Makwadam, Baba Kusha, Shalat, Mayaka'ala, Wahatazawadat, Alahayim, La, Maganawa, Rapanawa, Washamar, Alnawa, Ba'ikor, Shalat, Haroka, Shal, Yahweh Shai, Lanawa, Lalamanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Tabawana, Wada'aith, Shal, the Barka, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Fawada, from Yad, Wa'iwalam, Aman. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth and all things living. and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people, Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most High, we beg you, right now, like the days of old, please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shah to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shah, thank you always and forever, so be it. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shah that gives us the law. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Hathawarah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shah that gives to us light to see. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Asherah, Nathalanawa, War, Lara Awah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shah that gives to us the ram's horn to call the people. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Korun, Ha'ayo, La Korah, Ha'ain. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shah that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Hasheman, Zayath, Lamashak, Yasha'Allah. Shabbat. Be seated.
That lady y'all had on the phone last night, she was a doozy.
Shalom, shalom, Shah Shabbat, peace and blessings to all the brothers and sisters within HYK and throughout all the nation of Israel, all the different camps, all the brothers and sisters who are studying, maybe not in a camp on their own, watching, learning, trying to get themselves steadfast in the Most High's will, keeping his law, statutes, and commandments. Again, shalom, happy Sabbath to all those who are on the teleconference line listening in, those who are on the live stream. Most High's will, he's watching over everyone. He's keeping us safe, keeping us in the spirit, sending us angels to minister unto us, to keep us in tune on this glorious Sabbath day. Shalom Akwath Andrea Watson, Shalom Elder Zaquam Malak, Shalom Akwath Rabakwa Malakah, Shalom Aliyah Aina, Akwath Aliyah Aina, Shalom Kahan Manashah, Shalom Akwatazayan, Ratazayan. I can always get that tongue twisted. Ratazayan, Shalom, brother. Shalom Akwath the warrior, as well as all the rest who are slowly and surely coming into the Sabbath service, going into the live stream. We want to say peace and blessings. This is the Sabbath day. This is Hayashra Kanas, which is the congregation of Israel, where we teach the law, statutes, and commandments, the history, the testimony, the prophecies pertaining to the Most High's will, which encompasses the Most High's chosen nation, which is the nation of Israel, who in these last days are scattered throughout the four corners due to the judgment and punishment of the ancestors breaking the commandments of the Most High.
those whose ancestors on their father's side, dating back at least 3 to 4 generations, who fit the prophecy, who fit the judgment that's written about throughout the Bible, that their descendants would be enslaved by the nations. Those who are over here in the Americas, North, Central, South America, and also portions of Canada, the indigenous people known as the Native Indians, Seminole Indians, Taínos, so forth and so on. You represent one or a portion of the lost tribes of the nation of Israel, fulfilling the prophecies that you read throughout the Bible, as well as those who came over on cargo slave ships, right, throughout the diaspora in 1600s, early 1600s, right, that was also spread throughout North, Central, and South America, known today as the so-called Negroes, known today as the so-called West Indians, known today as the so-called Haitians, right? You represent also a portion of the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel, right? And this is what the Most High has left us, the commandments, to now repent from those past sins and past iniquities and try to come back to the Most High through our Lord and Savior, Yahweh Shai, who left us an example that we follow in his footsteps, to not commit any sin, show favor to our brothers and sisters as far as for trying to help them out, teaching them, guiding them, directing them, admonishing them, rebuking them when we have opportunity, to try to get them back to the Most High, as it states in Isaiah 58:1, that we cry aloud and we spare not, and we show our people their transgressions, right? So we come on the Most High's day to tap into the Spirit. We go throughout the different books of the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, also in the hidden book known as the Apocrypha. And we read 2 chapters in depth, like it tells us in Nehemiah, the 8th chapter and the 8th verse, that we read it distinctly to give the sense, so that when there's no stone uncovered, and if there are some questions, we always ask brothers and sisters to make sure they have their Bibles, Apocryphas, Bible dictionary, pens, pad, and some form of device to take notes, to write them down and bring it to the class. As it was just aforementioned a little while ago, we had an interesting class last night, and I would say, we learn from our past experiences. And I'll say, we always exhort brothers and sisters to come with questions, come, with an open mind and an open heart. But most importantly, when we have these types of forums, to show some type of decorum. We have to be a bit more in tune with what the Most High is guiding us, that, we don't overtalk each other. We don't slander each other, right? Not to say that those are the things that happen, but these are the things that we now have to build ourselves up to, following the example that was set by our Lord and Savior Yahweh Shai, as well as other righteous brothers and sisters in the nation that we read about throughout the testimony in the Bible. So again, make sure we still reach out, bring as many people that we can get into the classes, but we're going to make sure that we have more decorum when we are collected together and we're discussing scriptures. May not always agree, but they still should be some form of decorum, or you may not see certain things just yet. Because if you're patient, like it tells you in Luke 21:19, in your patience possess ye your souls. If you're patient, you might hear a precept, or you might get the further understanding that may come out. It may not be in the 5th minute, could be in the 22nd minute that a light bulb goes off and an aha moment happens, and then you now get clarity. But if we are, kind of disarray, those things kind of hamper or dampen the spirit, so that you might not be able to see clearly. But again, that's just for everything and everyone that we move forward. Definitely with more decorum. Shalom, brother. I think that's a brother. Can't see the silhouette. Or listen with your mind. Shalom, shalom. All right. So without further ado, I want to jump into the lesson today. We're in the Old Testament, 2 Kings chapters 19 and 20. Let me just change this banner real quick. Salakia. All right, yes. So in 2 Kings chapters 19 and 20, again, we're in, as they call, the holy month, where we have 3 high holy days in this month. We just feasted on the memorial blowing the trumpets this past Tuesday night. As it was mentioned in class, we're on the 4th day right now. And then on the 10th day, which is going to be Thursday night, we're going to be doing the Day of Atonement, right? And then after the Day of Atonement, 5 days from then, that Tuesday night following, we will be doing the Feast of Tabernacles. And for those who are able, we will be down in North Carolina. I can't remember the name of the location, but we will be there for those days up until the Sabbath, keeping the feast at that location. So again, this is a holy month within, we're on the Sabbath day. So this is like a big deal for us, for Israel, with all of these different occasions coming up, feast days and solemn assemblies coming up within this time period. So let's buckle up. Pardon me, I've been a little under the weather this week. I think right after or right leading into the day of the memorial blowing the trumpets, I started getting under the weather. I think I'm coming off of it. So just bear with me. I may not have as much of the same energy as I do, but Most High as well, He'll give me the spirit, and we'll have a very electrifying Sabbath service today. All right, so let's get into Second Kings chapter 19. What was that? Oh, okay. Was the delay just showed up?
That's good.
Okay. So this is 2 Kings chapter 19 and verse 1. Oh, okay. It says, and it came to pass when King Hezekiah heard it. So like before we even get to first verse, right, we got to understand where we was at before with the Assyrians coming against the nation of Israel. The Assyrians sent ambassadors or messengers to Israel, warning them about their oncoming. And I think there was one man individual that we're about to read about, Rapsakah, who came and delivered the king's message. And it caused Israel to be in a frenzy. Usually you see this same thing happen with Judith when we was reading in the Apocrypha in the beginnings of those chapters, where the Assyrians at that time were coming against Israel because we did not follow them into the war, and they came to destroy us. And at that time, because of the mass numbers that they had, Israel became to be fearful and went into a disarray. It's almost the same thing here at a different point in time with King Hezekiah ruling, that these same occurrences are happening, right? And it sometimes would repeat itself. So as we're reading into this first verse, we're seeing now the emotions of Hezekiah as he's now processing what we read in the 18th chapter with these ambassadors and Rapsakah being one of the lead messengers for the Assyrian kings to come deliver this to Israel. So in verse 1 in 2 Kings chapter 19, it says, and it came to pass when King Hezekiah heard it, that he rent his clothes and covered himself with sackcloth and went into the house of Yahweh. So once the news came to Hezekiah of what was delivered unto them, or what the heathens are now claiming they're going to do to us, he went into disarray, went into the house of the Most High and rent his clothes, which was a custom of Israel, to rent their clothes, take off their goodly apparel, and put on sackcloth and put ash or earth upon them, right? To make themselves become base before the Lord as a form of humbling themselves before the Most High, that he would have pity and mercy on us, right? So this is what Hezekiah now is going through. So read again. And it came to pass when King Hezekiah heard it, that he rent his clothes and covered himself with sackcloth and went into the house of the Lord. And he sent Eliakim, which was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and the elders of the priest, covered with sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos. So now this man Isaiah was a prophet, one of the lead prophets at that time. At different time periods, when you have the kings that were ruling, there were certain main prophets that were always around at that time that they can go to hear the word of the Lord, right? The kings didn't always just go to the Most High themselves. They couldn't petition because the Lord set up certain men that they would be that mediator between him and the people. So they would send messengers, or they themselves would go to that prophet to inquire of the Most High what the state of affairs would be, to get direction, right? Always, even sometimes it was just going out to war, or should we go here? Should we journey here? And the Most High would give word to that prophet to deliver to the people. And this is what's happening now. So Isaiah is that figurehead of the prophet that now is the mediator or the intermediator between Israel and the Most High, right? So verse 3, it says, and they said unto him, thus saith Hezekiah, this day is a day of trouble and of rebuke and blasphemy, for the children are come to the birth, and there is no strength to bring forth. Right. So now this is the message that's being delivered to Isaiah of the state of affairs, because maybe he doesn't know what's happening or what's going on. So now they're delivering the message as if we're in dire straits. Right. This is a day of trouble because the heathen is coming to destroy us, of rebuke and of blasphemy. Right. Because they're saying blasphemous words, not only about Israel, but also about our power, about the Most High. Right, that he is not going to be able to stand up against their onslaught because of what they've done to the other nations. What can the Most High do against them? That's why it's saying blasphemy. So now, as he's now describing this by the hand of his messengers to Isaiah, he even further says it, further emphasizes it by saying, for the children are come to the birth, and there is not strength to bring forth. Right. So in now him trying to paint the picture, it's like a woman is about to have a baby, and normally when a woman has a baby, she's delivering a baby, she has contractions, and then now those contractions, the doctor or the nurses tell her that you got to push to deliver the baby, right? And then the woman, she's there mustering up all her strength, and she's grabbing on this and she's grabbing on that, squeezing, trying to push the baby out, right, to receive a newborn. But in this case, it says that there is no strength to bring forth, right? There is not enough strength to deliver the baby. Now, what is this in context to? This is now talking about how are we going to be delivered from this hell that we're going through, right? Go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30. Jeremiah chapter 30. And verse 5. Last time I didn't write down no scriptures in the book. Say again. Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 5. For it reads, it says, for thus saith Yahweh, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness, right? So now it's like to say everybody is going through this torment, so much so that even a man looks like he is about to give birth to a baby in travail. Meaning that's like the expression that we say when something bad happens. We'll say, man, I'm sick to my stomach. And you're like, oh man, it's so bad, I can't believe it. And that's kind of the state of affairs where you see with Israel, when we are now at the brink of destruction. Now, everybody is now fearful that there is not going to be anyone to save or deliver them. Verse 7, alas, for that day is great, so that none else is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Right? So you'll hear a lot of times, even in these last days, where the prophets will bring out that Jacob's trouble is near. Meaning, sure, we've gone through a lot of travail coming out of slavery. Some of the same things is happening now, even on a higher level, based on what we've seen in the 60s and the 70s, and it's getting worse. So Jacob's trouble is going to come to that brink, right? It tells you that the righteous shall scarcely be saved when you read it in the New Testament. I can't remember the actual precept, but the righteous shall scarcely be saved. So it's going to be where Jacob's trouble is going to increase. There's going to be a lot of different things happening in the world, and then the deliverance is going to happen, right? So it's the same thing in certain times when you see that throughout the scriptures where we were on the brink of destruction, right? And we were in travail, and the Most High sent saviors to come and deliver us from out of said peril, right? So that's Jeremiah chapter 30, verses 5 to 7. Go to Isaiah 26.
It's 1 Peter 4 and 18.
1 Peter 4:18, the water. 1 Peter 4:18, for those, I quoted it, for the righteous shall scarcely be saved. That was 1 Peter 4:18. Right? 1 Peter 4:18. Shalom, Brother Lab Tawab and Emma. Shalom, shalom. And Elder Zaquan posted in the chat, Ecclesiasticus chapter 49, verse 4. All except David and Hezekiah and Josiah were defective, for they forsook the law of the Most High. Even the kings of Judah failed. Right? And I think we mentioned that. I think, Kahan, you mentioned this several weeks back when we were going through Kings. We started getting to Hezekiah, that those are the three kings of all the kings, right? From Israel, the kings of Judah, that only those three kings by name, Hezekiah, David, and Josiah, were the only righteous at the time of their death. They didn't defect. You had some that are mentioned that were right, but then their heart turned towards the end. Even King Solomon, right? The wisest during his time, he also turned. He defected, but not those three. So that was Ecclesiasticus chapter 49 and verse 4. And now we're going to Isaiah 26. Isaiah 26. And 17. So Isaiah 26:17 says, like as a woman with child that draweth near the time of her delivery is in pain and crieth out in her pangs, so have we been in thy sight, O Lord, right? So that's how the nation of Israel, right? When we go through the things that we see happening to us throughout the different periods of our captivity, it's as if the same thing, a woman that's going through travail to deliver the baby. Right? That the baby is symbolic of salvation or deliverance, right? We're going through all these things till we get to that point. We're going through all these travails till Yahushua sends the angels out to come and deliver us from the four corners of the earth, and then we witness the enemy's destruction. Verse 18, we have been with child, we have been in pain, we have, as it were, brought forth wind. We have not wrought any deliverance in the earth. Neither have the inhabitants of the world fallen. So that's kind of the state that we're in right now, right? We've been going through all these things and we have not gotten our deliverance yet, right? We haven't seen the world fallen, right? As it's been prophesied that they're going to all fall from their heavens, and the Most High is going to raise up the nation of Israel under the power and authority of Yahushua, that they're going to be the new powers in the earth at that time. Go to Jeremiah chapter 4. Again, this is all linking with verse 3 back in 2 Kings 19 about the children are come to the birth, but there is no strength, right? Go to Jeremiah chapter 4 and verse 31. It says, for I have heard a voice as of a woman in travail, and the anguish as of her that bringeth forth her first child. The voice of the daughter of Zion, right? So last night we was in the class and we was going through Ezekiel 28 and we was going through Job, and was brought out that I think it's Hosea 12 and 10, how the Most High speaks in allegories. He compares one thing to another, right? And here it's just very clear, right? Because comparing the birth of a child to Israel or Zion's deliverance, right? It says, I'm gonna read it again. For I have heard a voice as of a woman in travail, and the anguish as of her that bringeth forth her first child, the voice of the daughter of Zion, that bewaileth herself, that spreadeth her hands, saying, woe is me now, for my soul is weary because of murderers, right? So now it's now comparing the two to the delivery. And now you have people who are trying to stop the delivery. People trying to murder and kill you before you can get to the birth of the child or your deliverance or that salvation. That's what's being compared here, right? And that's been the state of Israel for a long time, because you have it mentioned by different prophets. Last precept for this one, go to Isaiah 66. Isaiah 66. And verse 1. Let's see where I'm trying to start from. Give me 1 second. I'm going to start from verse 7 and read down to 13. So Isaiah 66 verses 7 to 13. It says, before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man child. Pardon me. Who have heard such a thing? Who have seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day, or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. Shall I bring to the birth and not cause to bring forth, saith Yahweh? Shall I cause to bring forth and shut the womb, saith thy power? Rejoice ye with Jerusalem, and be glad with her, all ye that love her. Rejoice for joy with her, all ye that mourn for her, that ye may suck and be satisfied with the breast of her consolations, that ye may milk out and be delighted with the abundance of her glory. For thus saith Yahweh, behold, I will extend peace to her like a river, and the glory of the Gentiles like a flowing stream. Then ye shall suck, and ye shall be borne upon her sides, and be dandled upon her knees, as one whom his mother comforted, so will I comfort you, and ye shall be comforted in Jerusalem. So again, the Most High goes through that whole vision of how Israel is supposed to be going through a lot of travail and anguish and pains. And the Most High is the one that holds the reins, holds the keys to when that's going to happen. So right now we are calling out, praying to the Lord. The murderers are doing this. Look what this heathen did to me. Look what's going on here. There's treachery and dissension even within our own nation. And we're still all waiting for the judgment, the salvation, the redemption to happen. So the Most High is like, just be patient, right? Israel, Zion is going to be comforted. Just like a baby, when it's born, the mother gives it milk to suck from, right? It nurtures it. It bounces on his leg. It plays with it. All of those things is going to happen to Israel, to Zion at the said appointed time. We just have to be patient, right? So that's kind of that same thought process. If we go back to 2 Kings chapter 19, that Hezekiah is thinking about, right? We're at the time where it's like as if a woman is going through travail and she has no might to push the baby. She has no strength to deliver her from her travail. And usually what happens when a woman can't deliver the baby, right? She's going through. Imagine what happens, right? The baby's stuck. She don't have no strength. In ancient times, today they could do a cesarean section, what they call a C-section, and take the baby out. Back then, you didn't have that, right? So when those things happen, the baby and the mother died. And that was just it, right? Meaning you are not going to get, as you compare the two, you're not going to get to your deliverance or your salvation, and the nation just dies. That's what the Lord is comparing as far as for the allegory between the two, right? So as we read on, we're going to see what the Most High is going to do based on this petition, right? So going back to 2 Kings chapter 19 and verse 3 again, and then we'll read on. It says, I beseech thee, O Lord, remember now how I have walked before thee. Salak, I'm reading the wrong verse. Verse 19, chapter 19, verse 3. And they said unto him, thus saith Hezekiah, this day it is a day of trouble and of rebuke and blasphemy, for the children are come to the birth, and there is not strength to bring forth. It may be the Lord thy power will hear all the words of Rabshakeh, whom the king of Assyria, his master, have sent to reproach the living power, and reprove the words which the Lord thy power hath heard. Wherefore, lift up thy prayer for the remnant that are left. Right? So I'm pretty sure the Most High has heard what Rabshakeh and the king of Assyria are saying, not only concerning Israel, but mostly what's concerning him. So Isaiah, I need you to go and communicate this to the Most High and see what his word is, see what he's going to say, right? Verse 5. So the servants of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah, and Isaiah said unto them, thus shall ye say to your master, thus saith Yahweh, be not afraid of the words which thou hast heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me, right? So when he was talking about the blasphemy in verse 3, it was a blasphemy that they mentioned about the Most High. It says in verse 7, behold, I will send a blast upon him, and he shall hear a rumor and shall return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. So that's the judgment that the Most High just put upon the king of Assyria, or Sennacherib, right? He said he was going to send a blast upon him. He was going to cause him to hear a rumor, and he was going to go to his own land and die in his own land. That's the judgment that the Most High just given based on what he had done and blaspheming his name and threatening to destroy the children of Israel, right? It says in verse 7, so like verse 8, you can link up this verse 7 with Jeremiah 49 and 14, which also links with Obadiah, but most folks recall mostly. And so Jeremiah 49:14, as well as Obadiah, the first verse, because in both of those verses, if we know the judgment pertaining to Esau in the book of Obadiah, the Most High sends out a rumor through an ambassador, right? And that rumor is the dissension that now happens with amongst the Esau's enemies to now begin to rise up to fight against him, right? That's what the rumor is. It's not like how we just say, do a rumor. No, the Most High puts certain spirits in men to cause them to rise up to now want to go and fight against another individual. And that's what happens, right? And now once that happens, if the rumor spreads, yo, you see what this kingdom did? You see what that man did? You see what Trump said and what he did? Yo, we got to band together and do such and such. And that causes now armies to start uniting, coming together, start planning and plotting, and then they now rise up to want to go and invade or overthrow a people or conquer a people because of what they've done. So I'll read that in a minute, but go ahead, Connie.
Yeah, kind of. It's heavy you bring that out as far as the rumor piece, because we see it connects them with the end time prophecy that Christ gave his disciples on the Mount of Olives, where, like you said, the Most High will put it out there ultimately, but then them trying to be like the Most High, like it says in Isaiah 14, they'll try to be those same people to put out the rumor, or like today what they might refer to as false flag attacks.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, oh, these folks have weapons of mass destruction. Or these people struck us first at Pearl Harbor, or they'll put a rumor out there and not really tell the full scope. And then folks get involved, guns will be out, lives will be lost. And by the time you figure out what actually happened, it's too late.
Right. So this is Jeremiah 49 and 13. I'm going to start at 13. I said 14, did I? I think I gave 14, but I'm going to start at 13. It says, "For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord, that Basra, which is the place where Esau dwells, or Edom, shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse. And all the cities thereof shall be perpetual waste." So that's the judgment that the Most High has given to Basra, Esau, or Edom, right? When you read it throughout the scriptures, Mount Seir, these are all the different names that the Most High has for the same people. Just like Israel has different names. When you read it, you'll read about Zion, you'll read about Jeshurun, right? Jerusalem, right? Jacob, right? So we have different names and titles, just the same thing as Esau does. So it says, verse 14, "I have heard a rumor from the Lord. An ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, Gather ye together and come against her and rise up to the battle." So the Most High now put that vibration out there amongst the heathen to now begin to start uniting to go and battle against Edom, right? So when the Lord says that he mustereth the host of the battle, like it says in Isaiah, 13? Isaiah the 13th chapter, that the Lord, the Most High mustereth the host of the battle. It's the Lord that's causing all this stir from the heaven. He's putting the spirit in some of these lead nations, the kings or the key people in these nations to cause this stir, right? Because the judgment has to happen. Sure, the Most High can just send the angels down and just wipe them out, but that's not how the storyline goes. He now has different nations of people rising up against other people to bring forth the judgment. And he can start that with a rumor, a whisper, right? And we know just on a carnal level how words carry, right? Let somebody say one thing about somebody on the low level, it's going to spread like wildfire, right? Whether it be bad or good, these things can spread just from word. They used to always say the best market is word of mouth, right? You ain't got to spend too much time and putting up billboards. If the product is good, word of mouth will spread it better, faster than anything else. So that's what the Lord will do. He will raise up a certain individual and cause them to now go and spread the word to now gather the nations together. All right, so that was Jeremiah chapter 49, verses 13 and 14, but you could also link that with Obadiah, verse 1.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is repeating Obadiah.
Right. Yeah, both Obadiah and then Jeremiah, the 49th chapter, speak about the same thing, just a little bit differently, right? Same message, just a little bit differently in that chapter. All right, so let's go back.
It was Isaiah 13 and 4.
Isaiah 13 and 4, the water, as far as for mustering the host of the battle. The Most High will do that. All right, verse 8 now. So Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria warring against Libnah, right? So even though they had, a whole company, I don't even say a company, it had thousands of people that was there present to go fight against the nation of Israel, they were also intertwined in another war, right? Just like how right now there's multiple wars going on and billions of dollars is being spent and different fleets of army and soldiers and ships is being positioned in different areas. That's what happens, right? When you are, the top dog, you have to now solidify your position. And sometimes solidifying your position means you got to put a whole bunch of things in check, right? So you just don't always have peace to just focus on one thing. You have to now have different affairs going on. So this is what now has happened. As Rabshakeh comes back from now what he was sent to go deliver to Israel, he finds that they are now in another war. I'm going to read it again, verse 8. So Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria warring against Libnah, for he had heard that he was departed from Lachish. So they were first battling over in Lachish, and they left there to go over to Libnah. And that's where he's now coming back to deliver what the children of Israel have now responded or done to his message. Verse 9. And when he heard say of Teherka, king of Ethiopia, behold, he is come out to fight against thee. He sent messengers again unto Hezekiah, saying, so now as they're fighting there in Libnah, he gets report that the king of the Ethiopians is now on the march. They coming out to now also fight, right? So when the Lord says he stirs up certain things, he puts things out there, rumors, right? Like it tells you in Matthew's, was the 25th chapter, wars and rumors of wars. The Lord does that. The Most High does that stir, right? So now as they're engaged in one fight, about to figure out what they're going to do with another nation, here's another people, the Hamites, the Ethiopians is now rising up to say that they about to come and march. So now you got to say, well, hold on. I got to go make sure I got things in alliance to go fight against them, right? I got to prepare for that. So now your mind is going to be all over the place, right? So now the Most High is beginning to now put the work on Sennacherib as to what his state of affairs is going to be to bring forth the judgment that he just said was going to happen in verse 7. A blast, a rumor, and then he was going to die in his own land, right? So these things now are going to come to pass. So I'm going to read verse 9 again. And when he heard say of Teherka, king of Ethiopia, behold, he has come out to fight against thee. He sent messengers again unto Hezekiah, saying, thus shall ye speak to Hezekiah, king of Judah, saying, let not thy power in whom thou trustest deceive thee, saying, Jerusalem shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Behold, thou hast heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all lands by destroying them utterly, and shalt thou be delivered, right? So now it's trying to remind us of what they had done, right? They're pulling out the card. Remember what we did to them? Remember what we did to them? Remember what we did to them, right? Who saved them from their travail, their troubles? Nobody, right? Don't be deceived by what your king is telling you, right? It says in verse 12, have the gods of the nations delivered them which my fathers have destroyed, as Gozan and Haran and Rezeph and the children of Eden, which were in Thelasar, right? So we touched on this a little bit last night, because when you look at Eden, when you go back to Genesis, it speaks about the Garden of Eden, right? So Eden is the region, but there was a garden, a specific place that the Most High selected out of that area to go and place Adam and Eve there, right? It's not talking about that whole region. And we know based on scriptures that in that area is where we now know to be Israel or Jerusalem. That's where he was placed. That was the Lord's favorite lot, or the favorite pit in all the earth. That's where he chose to put his name at, right? But now Eden was still a larger place, right? And then you had people who dwelt there as well. So they conquered them, right? Going back, it says as Gazan or Gozan and Haran and Rezeph and the children of Eden, which were in Thelasar, right? And I think in the other book in Isaiah 37, which speaks about the same storyline, it spells Telazar a little bit differently. But he's now just being prideful into all the people that he conquered, right? That were dwelling in these different places, right? Who delivered them? What gods did they have that delivered them out of their hands? Go to Deuteronomy chapter 3. Deuteronomy chapter 3. And verse 1. So it says, then we turned and went up the way to Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. Verse 2, and Yahweh said unto me, fear him not, for I will deliver him and all his people and his land into thine hand, and thou shalt do unto him as thou didst unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon, right? So now as he's going through, their track record of saying they went and conquered and did this and did this and did this and did this, well, the nation of Israel, we can do the same thing and show that the Most High went and delivered these other nations that was coming out against us, and he aided us and delivered us from these same nations, right? And gave us their land, or gave us their spoils, right? So we do have a deliverer that the other nations don't have. Verse 3. So Yahweh, our power, delivered into our hands Og also, the king of Bashan, and all his people, and we smote him until none was left to him remaining, right? So that's the difference that the nation of Israel has over all people, albeit we don't recognize that or know that collectively as a nation. The remnant does, or the remnant is now growing to trust the Most High day in and day out. As much as you stay tuned in these scriptures, as much as you apply these scriptures, you begin to trust the Most High much more and not doubt him that when that time comes, the Lord will deliver us as well, right? Go to the book of 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel chapter 22. Second Samuel 22, I'm going to start from 1. It says, and David spake unto the Lord the words of this song in the day that the Lord had delivered him out of the hand of all his enemies and out of the hand of Saul. And he said, Yahweh is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, the power of my rock, in him will I trust. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation, my high tower and my refuge, my savior. Thou savest me from violence. I will call on Yahweh. I will call on the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from mine enemies. When the waves of death compassed me, the floods of ungodly men made me afraid. The sorrows of hell compassed me about. The snares of death prevented me. In my distress, I called upon Yahweh and cried to my power, and he did hear my voice out of his temple, and my cry did enter into his ears, right? So we read something along the same lines as this song you read about also in the book of Psalms. We usually read this during the times of the Day of Atonement, right? As far as for how when you're going through pain and anguish and how the Most High can deliver you. And it also goes into repentance. But here we see the spirit where righteous men understood that the Most High is the deliverer, right? The Most High will set up certain men, or the Most High himself will then send an angel and or deliver you from out of said perils, right? And that's what we have as our aid, right? He is our reward. He is the one that is our defense, all right? So let's go back to 2 Kings chapter 19. We at verse 13 now.
Those are from verse 12.
Kind of. So 2 Kings 19:13. Where is the king of Hamath and the king of Arpad and the king of the city of Sepharvaim of Hinah and Avah, right? So he's still, through pride, mentioning everybody else that they had already conquered. Where they at now? They was there. Y'all remember them. Y'all used to see them. We destroyed all of them. Now go ask them about their deliverance. It ain't happened. So don't listen to what this guy's talking about. That's what they're saying in their pride. Verse 14. And Hezekiah received the letter of the hand of the messengers and read it. And Hezekiah went up into the house of Yahweh and spread it before the Lord, right? So now Rapsakah and these men came back with what, Sennacherib had just said. He read it. He's like, oh, man, these guys are treacherous. So he took the letter, took the letter, went up to the house of the Lord to go and now spread it before the Lord so the Lord can see openly what it is that they're saying, how they're blaspheming against us in his name. Verse 15. And Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, O Lord, power of Israel, which dwelleth between the cherubims, thou art the power, even thou alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. Thou hast made heaven and earth. Right? So now, as he's going back to the temple to go now pray again before the Most High. And interesting enough, also in the class this evening, we was reading about in Ezekiel 28 about the cherubs, right? And here is mentioning that the Most High that dwelleth between the cherubims, plural, right? Now, what is this referring to? Go to Exodus chapter 25. Exodus 25. 25 and 18. So Exodus 25:18 says, and thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold of beaten work, shalt thou make them in the 2 ends of the mercy seat, right? So as they're making the Ark of the Covenant, on the Ark of the Covenant, on the top portion of it, they're making the top lid. And on that top lid, they're going to have a mercy seat. And in between the mercy seat, or the opposite ends of the mercy seat, are going to be 2 cherubims, right? We see that image. So I'm not on my computer. I would have brought it up, but we see 2 cherubims that are facing toward each other right there on the mercy seat. This is the instruction that the Most High is given to Aaron and Moses of how to construct it, right? So it says, verse 19, and make 1 cherub on the one end and the other cherub on the other end. Even of the mercy seat shall ye make the cherubims on the 2 ends thereof. And the cherubims shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall be the faces of the cherubims be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. And there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all things which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. So this is the Ark of the Covenant. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Bear with me.
Any of the gentlemen? Pretty realistic, right? It's cool.
Let's see which one I like. Several different ones. All right, I'll just pick this one. All right, bear with me 1 second. There we go. All right, so here's a picture of the Ark of the Covenant, and on top you see the 2 cherubs, their wings facing toward another and their faces touching, pointed toward one another. Let's see if I could, right, make it a little bigger, right? So these cherubs, and again, when we look at these images online, this is man's imagination. This doesn't mean that it matches exactly what the priests did back then when they actually crafted it. But this is what this looks like, right? So these cherubims, or the cherubs, are celestial beings, right? Just like how you have terrestrial beings or things that's on the earth, that's made from the earth or the terrain. And there's different things or creatures that the Most High has on the earth. In the heavenly realm, there's celestial beings, right? And here we have what is described as a cherubim, right? When you read it in Isaiah, the 6th chapter, it talks about the seraphims, right? And they're also celestial beings, right? So here we're seeing what is being described here in Exodus, the 25th chapter. The Lord is saying, when he now needs to speak with Aaron or Moses, or specifically Aaron or the high priest, he will come and sit on the mercy seat in between the two cherubims. So that's what Hezekiah is speaking about when he says the Most High that dwelleth between the two cherubims. Now, does it actually mean that the Most High is actually only living or dwelling there? No. This is where the Lord will now come down or send an angel to speak to the high priest from on top of the mercy seat in the holiest of holies within the tabernacle. All right. Go to the book of Numbers. Go to the book of Numbers, chapter 7. Numbers chapter 7. Now I'm really going through this because a lot of times when we have, we read certain verses or we see certain precepts, it's good to have pretext, as I think I was talking about this last week. It's good to have pretext to understand the context, right? You got to go back to getting the past information about what was really happening and why this thing was instituted so that you can fully understand how to compare it to the current, right? So in Numbers chapter 7 and verse 89, it says, and when Moses was gone into the tabernacle of the congregation to speak with him, the him is referencing the Most High or the angel of the Most High. Then he heard the voice of one speaking unto him from off the mercy seat that was upon the ark of the testimony, from between the two cherubims, and he spake unto him, right? So this is what now was happening back then when we had the Ark of the Covenant and we were in order. We still had the Levitical priesthood. We had the tabernacle. This is what happened, right? When the Most High needed to send instruction or give a word, he would have that high priest or that man of the Lord go into the holiest of holies, and he would hear them from behind the curtain. And the Lord would speak to him from between the two cherubims, right? Now, go to Hebrews chapter 8.
What verse is number 7?
89. So go to Hebrews chapter 8. Now, I know I'm deep diving just off of his prayer, but I think it's pertinent based on what we just was discussing in one of the classes. So Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 1. So Hebrews 8 and 1 says, now of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such an high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heaven. This is speaking about Yahushua, right? He's the one that's seated at the right hand of power, a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which the Lord pitched and not man. So now him being a high priest is being compared to the Levitical priesthood, who set up a tabernacle on earth by the hand of man. But Yahushua, who is now sitting on the right hand of majesty, is saying that he is the minister of the true tabernacle, meaning this is up in the third heaven. He's the one that's establishing that setup there. Man didn't do that, anything with that. Verse 3, for every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices. Wherefore it is of necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer. So just like how on earth the Levitical priests do the offerings for the Most High, well, Yahushua does the offerings for the Most High as well, but in a different tabernacle. Verse 4, for if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law, right? Just like how it reads in Hebrews 7:14, as far as for when it says that our Lord sprang out of Judah, out of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning the priesthood, because Christ came out of the tribe of Judah. To be a priest, you have to be out of Levi to now go and perform that duty, right? So that's why it says he would not be a priest on the earth because he wouldn't have come from that tribe. Verse 5, it says, who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things. So the men that's on this earth, the priests that was set up, they're following an order that's from the heavens, right? They're following something that was an example that was given to them by the Most High to do here on the earth. So when you're reading about these cherubims are there in the heavens, or these celestial beings that the Most High now has around his seat, because the mercy seat really falls to the Most High. He's the one that gives mercy. He's the merciful power, right? He's the one that gives us grace. So that Ark of the Covenant, where the cherubims are dwelling in the mercy seat, is really a reflection of what's happening in the third heaven. I'm going to read that part again, verse 5. Who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things. So everything that we do now is a shadow of what's happening in the heavens. Hence, why Yahushua gave us the Lord's Prayer, right? In the Lord's Prayer, it speaks about the things that's done in heaven needs to be done on earth. And this was an example of that. It says, as Moses was admonished of Yahweh when he was about to make the tabernacle, for see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern showed to thee in the mount. So when Moses was in the mount for 40 days, 40 nights, the Most High had showed him the pattern. He gave him an insight as to what happens in the heavens. How does that look? Now I need you and your brother to go down from this mount and begin to construct examples of what you see. So these cherubims, these celestial beings, are there in the heavens following the order of the Most High. Now, go to Isaiah chapter 6. Isaiah chapter 6. And verse 1. Bear with me 1 second.
You get your big screen too still.
Oh, still on there?
I mean, they just see you, I think.
Okay. All right, so Isaiah chapter 6 and verse 1. I can take this off the screen. So it says, 6 and 1, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also Yahweh sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple, right? So now Isaiah, the same Isaiah that we're reading about in 2 Kings, the one that Hezekiah went and sent this message to, and the same died, and another king died, he's seeing the Lord sitting on his throne. The Most High has given him this insight, this vision. Above it stood the seraphims, right? Now the seraphims are angelic angels, spirits, right? It says each one had 6 wings, with twain he covered his face, with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. So this is a celestial being that has 3 pairs of wings, 2 covering the face, 2 covering the body, 2 covering his feet, and he's able to fly like that above where the Most High is sitting. Verse 3, and one cried unto another and said, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. So now we have another celestial being that's now where? Sitting above the Most High, right? So now here it is. You got this vision from one prophet about how things is being orchestrated. Now the Most High gave the spirit where this is an example of what's happening in the heavens, what we see on the Ark of the Covenant. Go to Revelations 4. Running through some precepts. We're about to jump right back into the storyline here. This should be 2 more, and then we'll jump back. Revelations 4 and 4 and 8. It says, and the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord power almighty, which was and is to come. So these are the same types of beasts that you're reading about in Isaiah. They're saying the same type things. Holy, holy, holy. And they're there above the throne. But it says that there are 4 beasts that's there speaking this to the Most High, right? So now one would think that these are just all righteous angels, that the Most High don't have any cherubims or any seraphims or any other thing that's not righteous. Go to Psalms chapter 78. Psalms 78. I'm going to start at verse 41 and jump down. So Psalm 78, 41. It says, yeah, they turned back and tempted power and limited the Holy One of Israel. So when you start here, the context is the Most High power, right? He's the one that was tempted and limited or diminished. People looked at him as not being there, right? Now the Most High is going to get angry. And as you read all down, these are the judgments that he, the Most High, is executing. Jump down to verse 49. It says, he cast upon them the fierceness of his anger. He is the Most High, wrath and indignation and trouble by sending evil angels among them, right? So the Lord is sending evil celestial beings to now come down and now wreak havoc on the inhabitants of the earth, showing that the Most High has control over evil angels, right? They're not something or a spirit that's going against the power. They're still under the authority of the Most High, right? So now we all understood these things. So that was the pretext, the context, and the foretext. I just made that word up. So now let's go back to 2 Kings. Let's go back to 2 Kings chapter 19. And we have verse 16 now. So 2 Kings chapter 19 and verse 16, it says, and Lord, bow down thine ear and hear. Open, Lord, thine eyes and see. And hear the words of Sennacherib, which have sent him to reproach the living power. Of a truth, Lord, the kings of Assyria have destroyed the nations and their lands, and have cast their gods unto the fire or into the fire. For they were no gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone. Therefore, they have destroyed them. So they were able to destroy these so-called gods of the nations, burn them up, melt them down, right? Our power is not like that. It mentions that in Acts 17, that we don't think of our power, shouldn't think of our power like how the nations do. Acts chapter 17 and verse 29. Acts 17 and 29. It says, for as much then as we are the offspring of power, we ought not to think that the Godhead is like unto gold or silver or stone, graven by art and man's devices. Because sometimes when we were in the world, deceived, right, following things of the world and different theologies and things of that nature, some of us believe these things, that our Godhead, that our power was like unto a man-made object or a man-made crafted graven image. The true followers, true worshipers of the Most High and Yahushua know that that's not the case, right? So we don't follow unto our power like how they do with their man-made devices. So I'm gonna read verse 30. I'm gonna go back. At the time of this ignorance, the power winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. So if we was in that perspective, or you thought that way, now is the opportunity that the Lord has given us to correct your ways and repent from those deceptions and then move forward. So back in 2 Kings chapter 19, and we have verse 19 now.
It just shows too, the blessing the Most High gave us when it comes to arts and crafts. We can take the blessing and use it to create good things, like you had with those two men. You read about Exodus that you were reading before, that had cunning when it came to working with different materials and making things. It's easy to take a person who has a certain talent and then set them apart. You're like, oh wow, this person is amazing, and then you forget, the Most High is one that blessed that man or that woman who said talent.
Cunning. They just did evil with it. Verse 19. Now therefore, O Lord our power, I beseech thee, save thou us out of his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that thou art the Lord power, even thou only. Right? I forget the precept, but I remember there was a precept, loosely say the word where the Most High speaks about using or crushing the other nations to show his name in the earth, right? So that when Hezekiah is speaking this, it's like, look, Most High, come and destroy them so that everybody know about you. Everybody know your name. Just like how Rahab the harlot mentioned it in Joshua. We seen what your God did to those other kings. And when y'all was coming, right, our hearts melted. There's a verse that the Most High says the reason why he does that, of course, for us, but so all the other nations know that he is the power, right? And that's what Hezekiah is saying here. It says that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that thou art the Lord power, even thou only. You can't compare the Lord or put his name in the same vein as other false gods, right? Can't do it, right? Most High is a living power, right? He's not a dead power. He's not something man-made that got to be carrier born. Verse 20. Then Isaiah, the son of Amos, sent to Hezekiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord power of Israel, that which thou hast prayed to me against Sennacherib, king of Israel, I have heard. This is the word that the Lord has spoken concerning him. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, have despised thee and laughed thee to scorn. The daughter of Jerusalem have shaken her head at thee. So now the Most High is acknowledging that he's heard Hezekiah's petition or his prayer, right? And now this is the response that now is going to go to Sennacherib. That's what we're reading in 21. This is the word that should now go back to him. I'm going to read it again. This is the word that the Lord has spoken concerning him. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, have despised thee. The thee is Sennacherib and all the Assyrians, and laughed thee to scorn. The daughter of Jerusalem have shaken her head at thee. Whom hast thou reproached and blasphemed? And against whom hast thou exalted thy voice and lifted up thine eyes on high, even against the Holy One of Israel, right? So now you haven't just spoken to any old body. You spoke against the wrong one, right? And you have many times the different kings have done that and met their fate, right? Go to the book of Daniel, chapter 5. Daniel chapter 5 and verse 17. Daniel 5 and 17. Con, if you can read that, Baba Kushar. Daniel 5:17.
Daniel chapter 5, verse 17. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, let thy gifts be to thyself, and give thy rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known to him the interpretation. O thou king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom, and majesty, and glory, and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would, he slew, and whom he would, he kept alive, and whom he would, he set up, and whom he would, he put down. But when his heart was lifted up, and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him.
Right. So now he went out there and destroyed and conquered different areas, different lands, different places. But then as that happens, you know, becomes insatiable, becomes infectious, and then what happens? Your mind gets lifted up, right? You get prideful, right? And then now you go above and beyond your boundaries. Then you begin to start blaspheming, right, against the power that sets you up, right? And you begin to say certain things and swelling words, and then the Most High now has to bring you down and replace you with someone else. Now, granted, all of them are wicked, but then once they get a bit big-hearted and they come against the power, then the Lord has to now have in the scriptures as a testimony that this is how and why he did these things. Verse 20.
When his heart was lifted up and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. And he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, until he knew that the Most High God ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointed over it whomsoever he will. Right.
So now the point was to make it known that it's the Most High that rules in the kingdom of men. So these things happen to certain heathen rulers. The Lord will send a prophet out to them to let them know and to prophesy against them. And then when the judgment happens, then they acknowledge it. Same thing happened in the Apocrypha in 2 Maccabees with King Antiochus, right? He went through the same fate until to the point right before he was to die. He then acknowledged the Most High, right? And that's what the Lord will do from time to time. He will allow a leader or a king to rise up, get prideful, right? Where most people think that, no, he's indefensible. Nobody can take coming down. Nobody can take them down. And then the Most High will do it himself or even by the hand of his chosen people, all right? So that was 2 Maccabees. I referenced it. 2 Maccabees, you can read the story, chapter 9. Right. 2 Maccabees chapter 9, verses 1 all the way down to 18. Second Maccabees. Is it 9?
Yeah, chapter
9, 1 to 18.
All I do is search the word stink. Quick. Intolerable stink.
Okay. So now we go back to 2 Kings, and we have verse 23. It says, by thy messengers thou hast reproached the Lord, and hast said, with the multitude of my chariots I am come up to the height of the mountains, to the sides of Lebanon, and will cut down the tall cedar trees thereof, and the choice fir trees thereof, and I will enter into the lodgings of his borders, and into the forests of his Carmel. I have digged and drunk strange waters, and with the sole of my feet have I dried up all the rivers of besieged places. Right? So this is, to a certain extent, both literal, right? That they're literally going and destroying different lands and trees and things of that nature. But it's also figurative in certain contexts, because the Most High, when you read the scriptures, he also likens men to trees, right? Because he'll say, oh, Assyrian, I think it was either a cedar tree or a the tree from Lebanon. I can't remember which one it is. But he also likens certain men or certain figures to trees and how things will also transpire. And he'll compare the two. When we get into Isaiah, the 14th chapter, Most High's will next week, that will also come out, right? As far as for how the Lord likens the nations or people to trees. So in this context, this is definitely a little thing on how they go and destroy different places and people and destroy their land and pillage. But it's also figured in certain contexts as it pertains to the nations of the people. Verse 25, hast thou not heard long ago how I have done it, and of ancient times that I have formed it? Now have I brought it to pass that thou shouldst be to lay waste fenced cities into ruinous heaps. Therefore, their inhabitants were of a small power. They were dismayed and confounded. They were as grass of the field, and as the green herbs, the grass on the housetops, and as corn blasted before it be grown up. Behold, I know thy abode, and thy going out, and thy coming in, and thy rage against me. Right? So the Most High observes everything. He sees what all the nations doing. Not only does he raise them up and allow them to rule for a period of time, he's still full aware of everything that they're doing. Verse 28, because thy rage against me and thy tumult is come up into mine ears, therefore I will put my hook in thy nose and my bridle in thy lips, and I will turn thee back by the way which thou camest. So when you read in the book of James, the 3rd chapter, it speaks about how you bridle the tongue and how you put a bit in the mouth to control the animal. Do the same thing with your mouth. It's all about the control. So the Most High is going to put a hook in their nose and turn them this way and turn them that way. Now to go where he wants them to go. Pardon.
Right when the topic came up, right?
Exactly. Verse 29. This shall be a sign unto thee. You shall eat this year such things as grow of themselves in the 2nd year, that which springeth of the same. In the 3rd year, sow ye and reap and plant vineyards and eat the fruits thereof. So this is now what's going to happen to the nation of Israel. We're in 2 Kings 19 and 20. No, Thawada. I think I'm good. If I'm not, I'll let you read for me, Thawada. So in verse 29, this is going into what the Most High is now going to show as far as for deliverance for the nation of Israel. Verse 30, and the remnant that is escaped of the house of Judah shall yet again take root downward and bear fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of the Mount Zion, the zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do this. So now all of those that's going to make it out, from what they're doing, the Most High is now giving them a sign that they're going to have a prosperous, life. They're going to have a prosperous situation, right? They're going to plant, reap the rewards. They're going to do all these things, whereas before they were afraid and they think they were going to have these things as a part of their deliverance or salvation. Verse 32, therefore, thus saith the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shield, nor cast a bank against it. So whatever he planning to do, he ain't going to do nothing. Not an arrow is going to be shot. Not a soldier's going to march foot. Not anything is going to happen. He's not even going to reach the bank or the brink of where he's thinking to come towards our host. It says, by the way that he came by, the same shall he return, and shall not come into this city, saith Yahweh. For I will defend this city to save it for my own sake and for my servant David's sake, right? Because the Lord chose to put his name in that city, in Jerusalem, right? The Most High put his name there, and that he made an oath that he would always keep David's name as a king on the throne, right? It would always come from the line of David, and the Most High had a certain alliance with David. Hence, he said that David was a man after his own heart, right? And going into the precept that Elder posted, where Hezekiah, David, and Josiah were the only righteous ones, starting with David, right? So he's going to defend Jerusalem and Israel for his name's sake and David's sake. Verse 35. And it came to pass that night that the angel of Yahweh went out and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 180,5,000. Right? 180 is how many?
60.
100 and how many?
60.
How much is the score?
20.
So 80,
Would be
80, right? So you got 180 and how much? 5,000, right? So you got 185,000 men that got destroyed by the angel that the Most High sent. Israel didn't have to go fight, right? This was a very important overthrow here about, when you look at the landscape of how many people was overthrown, and the Most High sent the angel down to go and do that based on his judgment, that became a reference point at many different times in the scriptures for certain people when they was fighting. You can write down 2 Maccabees, the 8th chapter, and the 19th verse. Second Maccabees 8:19, 2 Maccabees 15:22, Judith chapter 9 and verse 7. And there's a couple, I think one or two other ones that I'll probably get towards the end of the chapter. But those chapters make reference back to this event, right? When the Most High delivered Israel during the time of Hezekiah to overthrow Sennacherib's army by the hand of an angel, where Israel didn't even have to go fight. So think about that, right? Where we could be, have an army to go fight, right? Have more than what we need, less than what we need, doesn't matter. The Most High himself can send a celestial angel or angels to come fight the battle. Verse 36. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed, right? So now after he's seen his host that was there, because he's fighting different wars, right? He's fighting over in Timnah. He now has his host here by Jerusalem, by Israel. He's hearing that the Ethiopians is on the march. So now once he hears his host is destroyed, he's out, right? So it says Sennacherib departed and went and returned and dwelt at Nineveh, right? So now remember the judgment in verse 7 that the blast was going to go out, right? The rumor was also going to go out and he was going to die in his own land, right? So now 2 out of the 3 have happened, right? The blast, the angel destroyed his host. The rumor, the Ethiopians is on the march. Now the 3rd one has to come to pass. Verse 37, and it came to pass as he was worshiping in the house of Nisroch, his god, that Adramelech and Sharezer, his son, smote him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia, and Esarhaddon, his son, reigned in his stead. Right? So the Most High had it where 2 of his sons killed him, fled, went into another place, and now his other son reigned in his stead. Right? Fulfilling the prophecy that he was going to die in his own land, right? And it happened by the hand of his own flesh and blood that killed him, right? Host got wiped out, and then he dies of his own son's hands.
And look at how he went to his God even still after that miraculous event. And it shows that how not just our people, but other nations that have short-term memory.
Yep.
And the Most High doesn't show His power for a while. Even shortly after, they'll still run back to their false god.
Good. All right, so that ends the 19th chapter. Now we're going to jump into the 20th chapter. So 2 Kings chapter 20 and verse 1, it says, in those days was Hezekiah sick unto death, and the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amos, came to him and said unto him, thus saith Yahweh, set thine house in order, for thou shalt die and not live. Right? So, we'll see in cases where, and of course, when you're reading the scriptures, and we read this last week in Judith, when you are come to term and you know that your days are few, right? You may not be on your deathbed where it might be, if somebody may have a terminal illness, or they may have a sickness that, normally is not overcomable, it's not curable. You start to put things in order. So in here, this was what was done, where the Most High, through the prophet Isaiah, is letting Hezekiah know that he gotta set his house in order. When you read in First Maccabees, the 2nd chapter, verse 64 on down, you see that happen with Mattathias. When Mattathias was about to die, he began to set his house in order with his sons. You're going to take care of this. You're going to take care of this. You're going to go and do this, right? So now you start putting affairs in order. And we mentioned this last week when Judith, before she transitioned, that's what she did. She distributed certain goods, released certain of her handmaids and certain things, and then gave certain things over to other people. That's what she did, understanding that this is something that's customary to do, right? And I mentioned last week, if it's a tragic thing, then yeah, you have like a will standing that now it can handle those affairs. But it's good when, you kind of take care of your affairs, if you still have your wits about you, to go and start laying things in order, so that it could be from out of your mouth that says, this is what I wanted. Folks can't argue, oh, I didn't hear him say that. I don't know who wrote that. You probably wrote that will like that. So you do it yourself. It's much better if you have the opportunity to do it. And that's what now Isaiah is instructing Hezekiah to do. But Hezekiah ain't ready to get his house in order, right? It says, verse 2, then he turned his face to the wall and prayed unto Yahweh, saying, so after he heard, man, my sickness don't look like it's going to come around. His prophet is telling me that I'm going to die. And I got to get my house in order. So what he did was he went to the Most High and prayed, right? And see if the Most High will have mercy on him to now help him out, cure him. Verse 3, I beseech thee, O Lord, remember now how I have walked before thee in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore, right? So this was his prayer. Now he's coming to the Most High as to say, Most High, please remember me. Remember my works. Remember my deeds. I've done good works to the nation and good works in your sight. Have favor on me, right? That's what he's asking. Go to the book of Nehemiah, chapter 5. Nehemiah 5. and 19. Somebody read that. Shot.
All right. Nehemiah chapter 5 and verse 19. Think upon me, my God, for good, according to all that I have done for this people.
Right. Think about my good deeds, Most High, when you look at me. Don't look at my iniquity and my sins. See the alms that I gave, the charity I displayed to the people by setting certain things up, teaching this person and cooking food and giving clothes and whatever the case may be. I pray for all the people that was over. Think about my good deeds, Most High, when certain things now need to happen to come down. Go to the book of, stay in the same book of Nehemiah, go to the 13th chapter. and 14.
This is the book of Nehemiah, chapter 13 and verse 14. Remember me, O my God, concerning this, and wipe not out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my God and for the offices thereof.
Right. So it was a recurring theme as to, at this time, as we're going back into the land to rebuild and to get the people right, because we had certain people who still wasn't always in the right spirit, and they had to weed certain people out and get people on point. So the priest at that time is asking the petition of the Most High to look at their heart, the sincerity in their heart, and how they are going about trying to do good deeds for the nation and for the people, right? Same thing what Hezekiah is petitioning as far as for how he did his good deeds. Go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 6. Hebrews chapter 6 and verse 10. Read that last one for me, Baba Kushah.
Hebrews chapter 6 and verse 10. For God is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which ye have showed toward his name, in that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister.
Right. So the Most High is not wicked that he's going to do all this work, right? Ministering, praying, feeding, clothing, sacrificing, that he's not going to remember that when it comes time for, judgment, or comes time for answering your prayers. He's going to remember all that you have done, right? And now, knowing that, this is where we pray and acknowledge those things. Most High, remember what I did. This is when you become humble, right? This is when you come base. Like, remember what I did over there? Can you just look me out? Can you just do me this one solid? Just one solid, please, right? That's what this is. And it's testified in the scriptures that the Lord acknowledges that. So in our own prayers, like Hezekiah shows that he went and faced the wall and prayed. Somebody could just be somewhere else and prayed here. So there's different variations of how people prayed physically, but in the mind, this is what they was asking for, right? Now, in order to get to that point, you got to do good deeds, right? You got to go out there and do charitable works. You got to put alms in, time in, so that you can use this as a leverage when you're looking for mercy from the Lord, right? When you're looking to get some comfort from the Most High that certain things is not going to be that bad. He can look and say, yeah, you was a righteous son, or you're a kind-hearted, spirited daughter of mine, and I'm going to look out for you on this one. What you did over there, you didn't have to do, and you did it anyway, right? So, yes, the Most High acknowledges those things throughout our life. So let's go back throughout 2 Kings chapter 20 and verse 4.
Where'd you stop in Hebrews?
10. Just read the 10 verse, 6 and 10. So verse 4 it says, and it came to pass afore Isaiah was gone out into the middle court that the word of the Lord came to him, saying, turn again and tell Hezekiah, the captain of my people, thus saith the Lord, the power of David thy father, I have heard thy prayer, and I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will heal thee. On the third day thou shalt go up unto the house of the Lord. Right? So as Isaiah was going out throughout the courts of the tabernacle. The Most High now calls him and says, hey, tell Hezekiah I heard what he was praying. Now imagine now Hezekiah is in his own place praying to the Lord. And now the Most High gets the prayers, right? You're reading the book of Revelations that the angel brings the incense with the prayers of the saints, the righteous ones. So now the Most High hears the prayer, right? And even in that prayer, the angel who is the messenger, but it's also sometimes acting as a mediator, they'll take your prayers and present it in a righteous fashion before the Most High. And the Lord is hearing the prayer. He's like, that's one of my good servants there. Hey, Isaiah, go tell Hezekiah I heard his prayer and I'm going to heal him, right? And now Isaiah has to go and deliver the message of his prayer. That's how you know the Most High is working with certain prophets, because you doing the prayer on your own, and here comes a prophet of the Most High now speaking and expounding about your prayer. You didn't talk to him about it, right? It says, verse 5, turn again and tell Hezekiah, the captain of my people, thus saith the Lord, the power of David thy father, I have heard thy prayer, I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will heal thee. On the third day thou shalt go up unto the house of the Lord, and I will add unto thy days 15 years. And I will deliver thee out of this city, out of the hand of the king of Assyria. And I will defend this city for mine own sake and for my servant David's sake. So on one hand, he's like, look, I'm going to heal you. All right, I'm going to cure your sickness that most likely was incurable. Right? Today we may say it's a cancer or a tumor, or, you got some kind of organ failure that's, back then they probably don't have modern day science where they can just go in and fix it up. Right? We probably did have herbs and things, but even certain times the herbs wouldn't work. Right? Because it has to come from the Most High. If the Most High said it's your time, it's your time. I don't care what you take, what you do, what doctors say, what holistic doctor, there's your time, right? And that's why he went and prayed to the Most High about that. I think in the Apocrypha, it talks about herbs and it talks about valuing the physician, right? Your doctors. But, and these are not talking about your regular doctors, and these I don't trust them, like that myself. But the ancient real physicians that understood how to deal with medicines of the earth and things of that nature to try to cure you, they had to be people or men of the Most High or women of the Most High, right? That prayed to the Most High that he would use them as a vessel to cure an individual. It talks about that in the Apocrypha. They just wasn't acting on their own, curing people on their own as if that power came from them. No, it ultimately comes from the Most High. So here it says that he was going to heal him, give him 15 more years, and then deliver him from the hand of the king of Assyria. Now, we just saw that 185,000 got destroyed. That didn't mean that Sennacherib's son wasn't going to come looking for revenge and try to come and overthrow him as well. So the Most High says, I'm going to deal with that too. I'm going to deal where nobody going to come and try to overthrow you or deal with you in your days. Verse 7, and Isaiah said, take a lump of figs, and they took and laid it on the boil, and he covered it, and he recovered, right? So they took some figs, boiled it, gave it to him, and then that was his cure, right? That was going to now kill what he had going on. So it says in verse 8, and Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, what shall be the sign that the Lord will heal me, and that I should go up into the house of the Lord the third day? So how am I going to realize, how am I going to know that Most High is really going to do this? Right? Because sometimes, you had men that really wanted confirmation, right? They wanted confirmation that the Most High was going to do something. I need a sign. I don't want to go up there for naught. I don't want to go up there and something not be right. What can you give me that's going to now allow me to know that this is going to happen? I'm going to get 15 more years, and then I can go up on the third day. It says in verse 9, and Isaiah said, this sign shalt thou have of Yahweh. The Lord will do the thing that he has spoken. Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees or go back 10 degrees, right? So you're giving an option. This is how I'm going to let you know that the Most High his word is true, right? I'm going to give you a sign. Pick one, right? Shall the shall the shadow, right, go forward 10 degrees or shall it go back 10 degrees? Meaning, just like how the sun is up today here, just by the normal course of how the sun operates, we know when where the sun rises at, right? And then where it sets at. So based on just having that understanding of the operations of the Lord, you can look and see based on the shadow, what time of day it is, right? So now he's giving an option. Should the shadow go forward or should it go behind? This is what his answer is. Verse 10, and Hezekiah answered and said, it is a light thing for the shadow to go down 10 degrees. Meaning that's easy because that's what the normal operations that it happens anyway, right? For it to go down 10 degrees or go forward. He says, nay, but let the shadow return backward 10 degrees, right? Now let it go according to the opposite of its normal course. Then I know the Most High is really working. Then I know the Most High is really showing me a sign. Because now it's like time not only has to stop, but time has to go backwards, right? That's different. That's come on now. Who out there, what man, what power, what false god can make time go backwards? Because now remember when we was doing the land of Egypt, when Moses and Pharaoh had his magicians, they were also able to do certain things. This is different, right? Who could make time go backwards for a moment in time? And that's what Hezekiah is now choosing as the option to now have a sign between him and the Most High. Verse 11, and Isaiah the prophet cried unto Yahweh, and he brought back the shadow 10 degrees backward, by which it had gone down in the dial of Ahaz, or the sundial, right? Because you now could use the sundial to see where the shadow of the sun is to now tell time. So now this was how they were measuring it. So now they're looking at the dial, and all of a sudden they see the shadow go backward. It's like, oh, snap, right? That's heavy. That's a big miracle, because now with the Most High, you're altering the normal operations of the celestial beings, right? And things on earth operate off of that, right? When you read it in Genesis, the first chapter, when it talks about the sun and the moon and the stars, right? Now, if the sun is now stopping and going backwards, the moon also has to also change its course, because everything is in perfect harmony. Let's go to Joshua, the 10th chapter. Of which one? Okay. Joshua, the 10th chapter. And verse 9.
All right, John. Oh, you didn't say how many scriptures. Verses.
I'm gonna read from Joshua 10, verse 9 down to 14. God, if you could read that, Baba Shah.
This is the book of Joshua, chapter 10, and verse 9 down to 14. Joshua therefore came unto them suddenly and went up from Gilgal all night. And the Lord discomfited them before Israel and slew them with a great slaughter at Gibeon, and chased them along the way that goeth up to Beth Horon, and smote them to Azekah and unto Makkedah. And it came to pass, as they fled from before Israel, and were in the going down to Beth Horon, that the Lord cast down great stones from heaven upon them unto Azekah, and they died. They were more which died with hailstones than they whom the children of Israel slew with the sword.
Right. So we see here during this time, as Israel was going out to war, just like on a normal day, or not a normal day, on certain occurrences where you get hail that'll come down from the heavens. And sometimes the hail could be little small things, and they could, you know, as they say, smart. It could hurt, pelt you, dent your cars up. And then sometimes the hail can come down huge, right? Baseball size and even bigger. So now the Lord, and based on gravity and the weight, if that's coming down from heaven, it's coming down hard. If it hits a person, yes, it can then kill you, right? So the Most High now is allowing the nation of Israel to fight, but he himself is also fighting from the heavens, allowing these hailstorms to come down and kill more of the enemy than the children of Israel was killing by the hand. Read.
Verse 12. Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel, and he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon.
Mm-hmm.
And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher?
Mm-hmm.
So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hasted not to go down about a whole day.
Right. So a whole day, Joshua, right? Now we're looking in Hezekiah's time where the Most High had Isaiah go and beat this person to now go and have the sun go back 10 degrees. But now the Spirit is here working with Joshua, where he now is commanding and telling the sun to stand still, right? And knowing that the Most High has the operations of the heavens operating in congruence with one another, the sun now is standing still. The moon also has to stand still, right? Meaning in just in its motion, but also the moon changes phases as the days go by, which the sun also controls, because the sun allows a day to come in and end based on the setting and rising, right? When the sun sets, then that's when a new day begins. So now the moon operates off of that too. So now if the sun stops and doesn't go down for a whole day, the moon now has to stop as well. It can't change. It can't change the phase. So now all that is in perfect harmony. So the same thing now when we look in here in Hezekiah's time, how the Most High had the sun go back 10 degrees. So for a smidgen, the moon also indirectly now has to also transform, also alter itself a bit to stay in harmony with the sun, right? Read the next verse.
14. And there was no day like that before it or after it, that the Lord hearkened unto the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel.
Right. So there was not a case where a man that just went and just said, stop, sun, don't move. Moon, you neither, don't move. Because we gotta finish this battle. We don't want the sun to set while we fighting. We want to have it lit up the whole time. And the Most High is on his throne, he's in this, and he's like, all right, I'll let this one go. I like Joshua. Joshua, because remember, Joshua was one of two that came out of Egypt, went through the wilderness, and came into the Holy Land because his heart was right. Right? He was not defective like the rest of the generation that came out of Egypt, save he and Caleb. So now by him doing that, he's not doing it out of a wicked mind or, a selfish heart that says, I want to do this. I want to show that I got the power, right? I'm the he-man. No, the Most High know he's wanting to do this to fight the war. And the Lord said, you know what? I got you. Yeah, hey, do what he say, right? Do what he say. Because ultimately, even though Joshua is saying this, the moon, the sun, the stars, they have a spirit, right? They get their order from who? Not Joshua, but the Most High, right? So when Joshua said this, the moon and the sun and everything else like, okay, we'll stand still. That's why he said that was the only time when he hearkened to the voice of a man to have that happen that way. So, but I read there because not only was it a sign that the Most High showed with Joshua, but to show that, you know, how these things also work in congruence with one another. The sun stopped, the moon has to stop as well, or it's going to be out of balance, right? Imagine if the sun stood still for a whole day, but the moon is still going through its phases, right? Now the days, the month is going to be off. So they have to stay in concert with one another. All right, so let's go back.
So, Kanan, does it mean today is actually the 7th month and the 5th day?
All right, so here's the picture as we go back to 2 Kings of a sundial. If you haven't seen it or didn't Google it.
Did the sundial Ahaz, what was that about?
Well, it's on the screen, right? So Ahaz was during that time, like we didn't have like watches, right? You know, just like how on our watches with the actual hand, it kind of is letting us know what point or time it is in the day. So based on the movement of the sun and how the shadow casts on the dial, just like how you have hands on a watch, that's kind of what it will look. It will give you the known, okay, this is what time it is during the day, right? Now today, you know, now understanding the operations of the Most High, when you look up in the heavens, if you are observing the sun constantly, you can just start figuring out based on the season around what time of day it is, right? You would know, oh, it's the sun is over there. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Because I've measured it every day. And then when it sets, oh, it's about 7:30. So let's just say you said from today, the sun sets here in Philly, what, about 6:30, 6:40, something like that? I think around 6:40, right? At 6:40, the sun sets, right? And then you realize, oh, this show, I got off work at about this time and the sun was about there, right? And you can understand how things look out there in the city. You begin to start making references. You got to start observing certain things, right? Sometimes we don't pay attention because we all be jammed up in our phones or blah, 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 blah on the phone about just different things. We're not really observant of a lot of things that surround us, to even include peoples and spirits, because a lot of things is out there that we should be pay a little bit more credence to. So in that, back then they had this device where you would be able to see the shadow and understand time at that point, starting with the sundial. And most cultures adopted this back then. And then over time, through technology, man would now try to put that on your wrist, right, with your watch and the movement, right? Put a battery in it to move to kind of mimic the sundial. And now everything is digital, right? Where it's just now you can have a digital watch or just the numbers on it. So when it's talking about that in verse 11, the dial of Ahaz is really going into the sundial that he brought to the nation. Verse 12.
We mentioned it. His sister, it's named after his father. According to the archaeology, they said they did a dig and they found it, and they accredited it to him being the one that instituted them using that going forward, at least as far as Israel.
Right.
Other empires had a sundial before. Just going into when we used it in Israel.
We got it. All right. Verse 12. It says, at that time, Berodach Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present unto Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. So now you have another heathen king of Babylon, heard about Hezekiah being sick to death, and now he's sending letters, right? You know, hope everything is well with you, blah, blah, blah. You know how people send salutations and concern. Verse 13. And Hezekiah hearkened unto them and showed them all the house of his precious things, the silver and the gold and the spices and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor and all that was found in his treasure. There was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah showed them not. Right? So Hezekiah receiving the letters from the king of Babylon by the hand of the messengers. So he showed them hospitality. Now, because they, show favor. I would say it was a little bit too hospitable.
Yeah,
right? A little bit too hospitable. He wasn't wicked, right? He was probably a little bit too hospitable with these Babylonians. I would have kept them in the front room, not bring them in the back room, right? But Hezekiah showed him everything that he had, right? Now, with that, now comes as a sign of what's to come a little bit later on, right? Verse 14. Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah and said unto him, what said these men? And from whence came they unto thee? And Hezekiah said, they are come from a far country, even from Babylon. And he said, what have they seen in thine house? And Hezekiah answered, all the things that are in mine house have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them. Right? So Isaiah coming like, hey, where these guys from? What they want? What they say? Right? So, Hezekiah, like, hey, these guys, they from Babylon. They came. What'd you show them? I showed them everything. There ain't nothing that I ain't got. I showed them all that stuff. So Isaiah's like, okay, Most High is about to show you something, right? Verse 16. And Isaiah said unto Hezekiah, hear the word of Yahweh. Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house and that which thy fathers have laid up in store unto this day shall be carried unto Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. Right? So, just in the manner and how Hezekiah is mentioning how he showed them everything, there's nothing that he didn't show them. All that's in his house is the same way that later on in time, the Most High is going to have all those things and nothing to be left delivered out and taken into Babylon, right? And that's going to symbolize, the downfall of Israel at that time, right? Hence, when we start hearing about that in the prophet Jeremiah, right? When Jeremiah gets into when we're going to go into captivity under the Babylonians, and then other prophets speak about what integral things happen in that destruction or that downfall. But here it's symbolic, going back to Hezekiah, bringing them in and showing them all the hosts of his treasures, all those treasures that he himself got and that his fathers got from the past is going to all be gone.
Just another one to add to the list of the symbolic gestures. We talk about Isaiah going out there with nothing on, with being naked, what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
Hosea, his time, what they had him do as far as marrying a woman of an adulteress and things like that, supposed to symbolize something else. You kind of see this scenario kind of doing the same thing. It's like, not to say what, like you said, not only say what he's doing is wrong, but it's just because the kings that came after him done the right thing, it wouldn't have mattered. But it was like one of those things where it's like, oh man, I did this. I didn't really think about it, or I thought about it, but then I didn't really realize it was the Most High overshadowing me to kind of show me something different.
Right.
He does that for a whole lot, but then certain things it'll cut out and be like, all right, you did this, you just said this here. Here's how I was speaking through this.
Right.
It kind of reminds me on a different note. We were talking about it, I think in the class about Leah and Rachel and Jacob and Laban, that whole situation, and how she was naming her sons for her reasons, right? Given a situation, a dynamic where she knew that he preferred Rachel over her. But you can see how the Most High was even overshadowing her to where their names would not just take on a meaning at that time, but then also for their nation.
Right.
Not just as an individual boy. When they'll become a nation, have sons and daughters, that name will kind of carry over. Reuben, see his son will play a significance.
Yep.
Simeon, hearing, Levi being joined,
Mm-hmm.
right? She named him for that her reason, but then the Most High had another reason for that name being joined for his purpose. Judah, same thing. So just so you'll see those examples throughout scriptures. Here's another one.
Yep.
Where it's like, okay, we're doing this, just you and me, and Isaiah, these Babylonian men, but there's something bigger too.
Good point.
Oh, and Isaiah 39, 1-8, more or less Isaiah writing down this same situation. Sometimes people might say, oh, Bible contradicts, or the Bible copies itself. Look, it says this here in Kings, and also says it in Isaiah, and it's like, yeah, because they were contemporaries, they knew each other, and lived around the same time.
Good. So 2 Kings 20 and verse 18 now. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. So his sons, or the generations that will come after him and through his posterity, they will be taken away captive. And some of them would also become eunuchs, meaning they're going to be castrated and then be set over certain offices, which they normally do, whether either over their treasures or over their harems. That's what the eunuchs usually took care of. But this was just a form of judgment that the Most High was saying now, which was going to happen after Hezekiah's reign. Verse 19. Then said Hezekiah unto Isaiah, good is the word of the Lord which thou hast spoken. And he said, is it not good if peace and truth be in my days? Right? So, Hezekiah's like, all right, that's what the Most High said. Good. Most High's word is always good. And wouldn't it be also good if peace and safety be in my days? Like, is that a question? So you want the confirmation, right? That's only going to be for my posterity after you, my children's children. They're going to go through that, but not me, right? Like, not me. I'm good. I'm gonna be straight, right? None of these things are going to happen in my time.
Obviously, look over at the Babylonians and look at them, we're rubbing their hands like Birdman, like, yeah, we getting you right now, boy.
Right.
Show us your treasure that we covered. No, not right now. It's funny too because they obviously, had a scribe or somebody that took note of this when they went back, right? Except that they left Hezekiah. They went back to headquarters and were like, yo, that's what they got going on.
Right.
So, word? I remember that. For, centuries later when it was like, yes. We know according to our records back then when we had, what's his face? Berodach Baladan, and he went to go visit, he saw their treasure. He saw how much they had.
Right.
Because, that's even the thing people go back and forth about now, right? They want to say, oh, China, or this country, that country, or Saudi Arabia. How much oil do they have in reserves for real? How much, what's their GDP for real? How do we calculate this kind of thing? So they can kind of figure out, what moves to make. So it's like a plus for them to kind of have that in record. Oh, they got all this? All right.
Yeah.
Remember that for later.
Yeah. All right, so verse 20. And the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and all his might, and how he made a pool and a conduit and brought water into the city, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? Right? So same things you read in Kings. You also read another of the same storyline in the book of Chronicles. Right? I'm going to read this in 2 Chronicles 32. 2 Chronicles 32. And 32. Actually, I'm going to start at verse 30. All right, when you read this 32nd chapter here, it goes into a little bit more in detail about Hezekiah and a lot of the things that he did. Actually, I'm going to start at 24. Let me just read through this. This is 2 Chronicles 32:24. It says, in those days Hezekiah was sick to death and prayed unto the Lord, and he spake unto him, and he gave him a sign. But Hezekiah rendered not again according to the benefits done unto him, for his heart was lifted up. Therefore there was wrath upon him and upon Judah and Jerusalem. Notwithstanding, Hezekiah humbled himself for the pride of his heart, both he and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that the wrath of the Lord came not upon them in the days of Hezekiah. So there was a chance where Hezekiah would have defected, right? But he humbled himself. Showing you sometimes, in this journey, you may have a slip. You may have, a moment where you have a lapse or some form of temptation gets the best of you at a certain moment. That's why it's important to examine yourself periodically, to kind of check to see where you at spiritually, to see if you're doing the right things, if your mind is focused, right? If you can realize that, hey, I'm being pulled a little bit over here, let me come back. Or this thing or this person is kind of like trying to draw me away and do something that's not right. So he had a moment where he was going to now go off like a lot of the other kings. But it said he humbled himself for the pride of his heart, right? And that, leads to destruction, right? Pride, just like how with all the other kings. So the wrath of the Lord came not upon them in the days of Hezekiah, verse 27. And Hezekiah had exceeding much riches and honor, and he made himself treasuries for silver and for gold, and for precious stones, and for spices, and for shields, and for all manner of pleasant jewels, storehouses also for the increase of corn and wine and oil, and stalls for all manner of beasts, and coats for flocks. Moreover, he provided him cities and possession of flocks and herds in abundance, for power had given him substance very much. This same Hezekiah also stopped the upper water course of Gihon, and brought it straight down into the west side of the city of David. And Hezekiah prospered in all his works. So that's what we're reading there in 20 and 20, 2 Kings 20 and 20, when it talks about how he made a pool and a conduit, right? That was a way that was going to be like a defense. So when the heathens came, they could also try to stop the waterway and now cause some type of famine or dearth. He prevented that by now having this private waterway that was going to come into the city, so that now we would always have some form of water that now is going to nourish us. That pool, that conduit is still standing today. People go over to the land of Israel, and that's like a tourist attraction where people go and also walk through, where the water comes up to your thighs, or depending on how tall you are, to your waist, but you can walk through that conduit that led into the city as far as for the path of the water. So it's showing you a lot of the things that the Most High blessed Hezekiah with, and some of the things that he did also that's still an archaeological testimony today, right? And it reads on. It says in verse 31, howbeit in the business of the ambassadors of the princes of Babylon, who sent unto him to inquire of the wonder that was done in the land, God left him to try him, that he might know all that was in his heart. Now the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and his goodness, behold, they are written in the vision of Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, and in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. So what Kahan was mentioning as far as it's also written in Isaiah 39 is pointing to that. Like a lot of these things and more are also in these other books, not only in Kings, but also in Isaiah. Verse 33, and Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the chiefest of the sepulchres of the sons of David. And all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem did him honor at his death. And Manasseh, his son, reigned in his stead. So when you hear people die and they're buried in the land of their fathers, or they're buried in the sanctuary where the kings are, he had a very high place. So it was known that the children of Israel would have to recognize what type person this king was, right? To say, okay, he was an evil king. All right, he deserves to be buried here, but we're going to bury him over there. Give him the plot, give him the plot, give him the plot. This guy, no, put him right over there next to David. Put him over here next to this. Put his land right here, because this is a righteous king right here. So he had the chiefest of the sepulchres of all the kings, or one of the chiefest of the sepulchres, showing you that we recognize a person's good deeds, right? And we honor them even in burial.
As you already edified, this shows how the temptation can come not only with the affliction, but also with like the blessing, right? Where your success can sometimes, like you said, be a crutch into if you're not careful. Because you read about these things, these are great works. These are great mighty works that we probably hadn't seen in a little bit. With the 185,000 army being killed to now, well, I went to the Most High, got my life extended, like Most High did that for me. It's easy to get like beside yourself.
Yep.
Versus like you said, it might be a thing like people may have been saying things, doesn't say it specifically, but like, you know, like you said, put them on that same level with David, and even that could get to a man's head, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, you see it. And it's just a good Romans 15:4 moment for us to just read it now and just make sure we consider it. If the Most High comes through for us and blesses us, we just don't, you know, fall into the same, you know, same way of thinking.
It's 2 Corinthians, to go to your point. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, because you're right. Sometimes, you know, we always look at the attrition of things, right? Certain things being taken away from you, and how that could cause what does that cause to a person, right? And they may say, you know what, his wife got taken away, his job got taken away, and because that happened, that was a thorn in his side, right? The Most High judged him and punished him, and yep, he went out. But now the Most High can bless you with certain things, and then that also can take you out, right? Like you said, you can get big-headed, prideful, right? Comfortable, and thinking like, yeah, the Most High gave me 15 more years. Oh, man, he did that. He ain't do that for nobody else. Man, you know what? I think my seat is assured. I'm good. You know, I ain't gotta do like, I don't see nobody doing what I'm doing on the level I'm doing it, right? Most High blessing me. So yeah, pride could begin to set in. Luckily, Hezekiah was able to snap out of that, repent, humble himself, and then get back doing the works. So this is Second Corinthians chapter 12, and I'm gonna read verse 6. So now this is when you read 2 Corinthians chapter 12, this is going into the storyline where Paul is going to vision. He's seeing a person in the third heaven, because the Most High and Yahushua was dealing with Paul on a high level, showing him different visions and revelations. So now if you're a person who you know that the Spirit is working with you, and the Most High is showing you vision and breaking it down in the same vein, you also can get high-minded and prideful, right? You're like, yo, you bringing this, the Most High is showing you the vision, and then you writing and you teaching the other men, and they breaking it down. You like that. And brothers looking at, oh, the Most High dealing with you, brother. The Most High dealing with you, brother. He ain't showing nothing like that to nobody else. Everybody's coming and waiting to see what the Lord going to show you next. And here come another vision, or here come another revelation, or here come another instruction. And Paul is distributing. So now a person can get high-minded. But Paul says this in 2 Corinthians 12 and 6. For though I would desire the glory, I should not be a fool. For I will say the truth. But now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he seeth me to be, or that he heareth of me. So Paul was mindful of how people would look at him, right? He didn't even want to be looked at or viewed on a high level based on how the Lord was dealing with him with the visions and the revelations, right? Yahushua was showing him certain things. So he's like, I should glory, I could glory, but nah, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I'm going to humble myself, lest anybody think of me more than what I am, or hear of me, like people start spreading rumor. I don't want that to happen. Verse 7, and lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure, right? So now even he himself considered in his heart that, look, even me, that lest I exalt myself above measure. So the Lord had it where he still was going through certain hardships and travails, right? The Lord sending Satan unto him to buffet him, bring him back down to size, let him know that he's still in the fight, right? Let him know that he still got to do work. He still got to put on the whole armor, right? He's not immune to now Satan's devices. And Paul acknowledges that when you read in his letters, that, you know, though I would do this, I don't be doing it, right? The things that I don't want to do, I be doing it, right? So he himself acknowledges his shortcomings, but he's not one who want to make himself above measure or to have other people think of him above measure. Because even in that, even with these revelations showing him, he can get prideful, high-minded, exalt himself, and then get out of the spirit. And that happens even in today's time with certain men who the Most High blesses with certain knowledge, right? Certain positions in authority, then all of a sudden they get high-minded with it and they start mishandling, abusing the people, abusing the sanctuary, abusing certain things, and then the Most High got to move them out, right? So you always want to be careful with the gift or the blessing that's given to you. All right, so let's go back. I stopped at, I want to say 8. It's funny, I was just about to write it down and I forgot myself where I stopped at. So I read 2 Corinthians 12, 7 to 8.
6. Started at 6, right?
I started at 6. So yeah, 2 Corinthians 6 and 7. 12, 6 and 7. 12 chapter, 6 and 7 verse. Now we're back into 2 Kings 20 and 21, last precept, last verse with one precept. It says, and Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and Manasseh his son reigned in his stead. So yeah, righteous King Hezekiah. Then we get to the 21st chapter. You'll see what type of king Manasseh his son was, but we already know it's not like David, Hezekiah, and Josiah, right? That's a given. Go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 38. Elder Zaquan referenced this earlier. I'm going to jump further down. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 38. I'm sorry, 48. He referenced 49. I'm going to read 48. 48. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 48. And I'm going to start from verse 17. Ecclesiasticus 48 and 17. It says, Hezekiah fortified his city and brought in water into the midst thereof. He digged the hard rock with iron and made wells for waters, right? And that's what you'll see if you go online and you look at the pool or the Hezekiah's conduit. You'll see that he digged into the rock, and that's how the water is coming underneath through the rock, through the I don't call it sewer, but kind of like underground, and it's coming into the city, right? Verse 18, in this time Sennacherib came up and sent Rabshakeh and lifted up his hand against Zion and boasted proudly. Then trembled their hearts and hands, and they were in pain as women in travail. But they called upon Yahweh, which is merciful, and stretched out their hands toward him. And immediately the Holy One heard them out of heaven and delivered them by the ministry of, it says, Isaiah or Isaiah. Now we read about Hezekiah praying. Here it mentions that all Israel was lifting up their hands praying to the Most High. Verse 21, he smote the host of the Assyrians, and his angel destroyed them. So one angel came down and destroyed that 185,000. Verse 22, for Ezekias had done the thing that pleased Yahweh and was strong in the ways of David his father, as Isaiah the prophet, who was great and faithful in his vision, had commanded him. In his time, the sun went backward, and he lengthened the king's life. He saw by an excellent spirit what should come to pass at the last, and he comforted them that mourn in Sion, right? So now the Most High is showing that Hezekiah was not only shown what was going to happen in Babylon, but he was also showing what was going to happen with modern day Babylon at the last, right? It says, verse 25, he showed what should come to pass forever, and secret things or ever they came, right? So see, we didn't read that in Kings and Chronicles, that the Most High had Isaiah show Hezekiah a whole lot of things, secret things, right? So when you have a good heart, when you're sincere, the Most High will begin to show you things that others won't see. Now, Hezekiah is one of a few where the Lord used them to open up those chambers. Not everybody gets revealed these things, right? But we see now that he saw more than just what was in his time. He saw more, or was told more, than what his son was going to fall by the hand of the ancient king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar back then. he was going to see what was going to happen in our time. He saw this modern day Babylon's downfall, right? And then the other secret things that is not even expounded upon, right? He might see certain men with certain spirits and gifts doing certain things at this time. This man is calling fire. This man has certain gift to now, you know how they do in the Marvel and DC comics. That vibration, that energy is based off the scriptures, where the Most High gives certain individuals different spirits or different gifts, and they can control and do certain things. So when you read about the prophets calling fire down from heaven, right, and it destroying, a sacrifice, or it destroys a people, right? And you look in what was Halle Berry's Storm, right? Storm, and she's there, and all of a sudden you see the storm come down from heaven and electricity come down, right? These things are gifts and powers that the Most High can give individuals on the earth. So imagine if Hezekiah is seeing these things that's now going to happen in the earth, and he's seeing actually how Israel and the angels is actually going to make it come to pass, right? So he was blessed at that time, not just with length of years, but also being able to see the end times with clarity. All right. And that is it.
No need for a breakdown. I'm just going to read this. It's going to go along with what you just read in Proverbs 25, 1 to 3. Once again, Proverbs 25, 1 to 3 to go along with that. Most High's will in the kingdom, ask Christ about that. Say, what else was Hezekiah shown, right? We'll get to talk to Hezekiah in the kingdom and say, hey, Hezekiah, what else were you shown from the Lord at that time?
Right.
We don't know now already at this point.
Right.
So Proverbs 25 and 1, it reads, these are the Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied out. 2, it is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. 3, the heaven for height and the earth for depth, and the heart of kings is unsearchable. So I think Hezekiah definitely embodied that too.
Good.
In his time, right, as a reflection of his forefathers. And then another verse too. There's a story above it, but you read Acts 14 and 12 just to show how Paul, had to deal with this, doing his mighty works and doing miracles and things like that. Having to let people know, look, I do all this through the Most High Christ. You just see how he was revered. You can't even think about this too when you mentioned the Storm and the X-Men, because she was worshipped as a goddess in that story too when you read those comics, right? But it says in Acts chapter 14 and 12, and they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius because he was the chief speaker. Just like them out there going out there and doing the work and dealing with the people of that mentality who believed in those false gods. They saw these flesh and blood men with the true God power in them, and they said, wow, this man, he's got to be Jupiter, right? The head of the gods. And Paul, he's got to be Mercury, because you go into Mercury or Hermes, what the Greeks called him. He was supposed to be the messenger of the gods. So he has those little wing sandals with the wings on him, going back and forth. So you see them being likened unto the false gods they revered, just seeing them out there doing the work. So just showing how, they dealt with that. We'll probably deal with some of the things now. We'll go out there and do things where we'll appear larger than life to the average, onlooker. They'll say, oh, you got to be dealing with some kind of power. You guys got, this power from this or that. You guys are dealing with some sort of, power. They may think it's from the left-hand side, too, or mistaken. We got to clear it up and go, look, we're not dealing with witchcraft. We're not dealing with this or that. Or spiritual wickedness. We're dealing with the true and living God and his son. That's who we're dealing with. That's who we're coming in the name of. You can do what I'm doing too, brother, sister, if you just humble yourself and follow these commandments like we're trying to do.
Right, Kun. It's interesting you bring this up, because I think, in the class last night, the first question that we was dealing with as far as for women teaching that Sister Ali Aina brought up, we didn't get to it. Got a little bit derailed, but in Acts the 19th chapter, as it pertains to how we was following the gods of the nations, and you'll see during Acts the 19th chapter, it goes into the craftsmiths and how they were making these idols for Diana, right? And Diana was a goddess that was worshipped, right? So now when you worship these gods these false gods or idols, you know, it be also now has an effect on the people. So now as you're worshiping Diana, women also now began to have a place. It was not even just in the Old Testament. It's also in the New Testament when you read in Jeremiah how we were worshiping goddesses, right? The queens of heaven and things of that nature. So that then began to give status and power that they can speak with authority. So now when we are coming back to establishing our own church, our own congregation to follow the order of the Most High, that's why Paul made that disclaimer that, look, right, the women got to keep silence first. They gotta be in subjection unto the men, because this is that order. In their realm, in their courts, they can do whatever they want to do. We don't have that set up that way in our court, in our system, in our congregation. This has to be the order. So now when you are trying to establish order, you now have to make sure certain provisions are kept, right? That now this is going to be the guidelines until we get to a certain point. When you look back to the times of Nehemiah and Ezra, right? Even when they came back to rebuild Jerusalem, and you read in the latter chapters where the priest was upset because you had Israelites who couldn't speak in their own language, right? They were speaking in the language of the heathen. And then certain men had wives of the heathen and children of them. And it was like, nah, we can't have this. All you men that got wives of these nations and you got children by them, they got to go, right? And we read that, you like, they Israelites though, right? How you going to kick out Israelites? Well, because they not in order yet, right? We gotta get things in order first, and then they can come back in. It'll be chaotic where we having this one speaking Moabite language, this one speaking an Ammonite language, this one speaking in this, and no one understanding, and we trying to get order. And he's speaking about that false god from Ammon, because that's what they grew up in. Nah, right? He was a bit harsh, but I understood the motive and the intention behind what he was doing, right? Most people read that and they be like, man, I don't know. I think that was a little bit rough, right? But he was more fervent for the Most High, for order. So in certain cases now, when you read in the New Testament with what the church was trying to establish, because we was coming out of the other nations, you know, when you come out of the world, right, you still hold on to certain things, right? Even in HYK, I remember now we're getting around the time of the 7th month, and we have the feast days coming up. Sometimes the feast days align with certain so-called holidays. So we was like, look, nobody cook a turkey this month. Don't cook no turkey. But it's the feast. Why can't I? Nah, because we know where your mind is at. Your mind is still going to be, some people going to be weak in here. They're going to come in here, probably this is their 3rd time coming in, and like, oh, snap, they got a turkey? Yo, we can make a turkey, right? So now you start making certain provisions to say, no, we're not going to do that right here now. Until we can get everybody's minds in order, then we can start doing certain things. So you start making provisions to get the house in order. And that was done in the Old Testament and parts of the New Testament. And then Paul carries it out and said, listen, Adam was first formed, then Eve. So that's the order. He's the head. She's in subjection to him. And that should be the order established also in the church. We didn't get into that in the class. Like I said, it got derailed. But it's interesting that you bring that out with the false gods and how that parallels to the false goddesses that we also followed and served in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, and what effect that had on us as a people, that we now had to break those chains and then come back to the righteousness of the Most High. All right, so that concludes today's Sabbath service. We're going to definitely always give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, while Yahweh Shah, for knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Ecclesiasticus 1:1, all wisdom come from the Lord, right? All wisdom, is that the 2nd chapter? I think it's 2 and 1.
You're right, 1 and 1.
1 and 1. All wisdom coming from the Lord. So when we teach, when we speak, we break down, edify, you know, in your mind, or, you know, you exalt, you make sure we give the glory to the Lord for his will and his word. So Most High as well, everybody was able to get the precepts, get the understanding. Like I said at the beginning, if you didn't get certain clarity on certain things, just write it down. We'll, like I said last night, we're going to try to reform, Lord's will, the group chat, the on our group text, I should say, I'm saying group chat, group text group, to get the right names in there. I know certain people not in there, and they're hearing third hand. I didn't get that. They feel isolated, but we're going to try to work that most High's will this weekend. So if you do have a question or a comment that's urgent and it can't wait until Tuesday, and you want the body of the congregation to also be informed, we're gonna fix that up. Next week for the Sabbath service, we're going to be in Revelations, the 3rd and 4th chapter. Again, that's Revelations 3rd and 4th chapter. And then, as we mentioned earlier, the Day of Atonement is Thursday night, right? The Day of Atonement is Thursday night. Now, because it is Thursday night, right, and it goes right into the Sabbath day, be mindful that if you need to make provisions for food, do it before the fast, right? Do some type of preparation of cold food, salads, whether you want to eat cold chicken, whatever it may be mindful and do it beforehand. Don't wait and then you break the fast on Friday night and it goes into the Sabbath and you're like, man, I really didn't have enough food prepared that's going to now carry me through. You're like, I shouldn't. Prepare, right? Go and get certain things, before the fast so that you can get through the fast. And then when you break your fast, you have something like Lord's will to start off with. And then you have something else that you can also break the fast on the Sabbath day while we're doing the class that night. As always, you had a question?
Yeah, on the Day of Atonement, you said Thursday night.
Thursday night. That's the 10th day of the month, Thursday night.
So in other words, when the night comes and
when the sun sets, around 6:38, 7, whatever that may be, or if it's sunny out and you start seeing the sunset, and right? Once it gets to a certain point, start getting yourself prepared, get your mind right, and then you go into the fast. And it's a good thing you spoke up because you now making me make this other point. For those who take medications, right? And sometimes medications require you to have some food to digest it with or drink certain things. As we was talking with the brother here, you can be wise with it, right? So if you need to take certain medications or things daily, I mean the 24-hour period, and we're going to now be going into this, be wise and try, if you can, to the best of your ability, where you can take your medications right before the fast. So if the sun sets, hypothetically speaking, at 6:30 here on East Coast, then maybe around 6:20, 6:15, say, you know what, I'm going to go take my medication, or 6 o'clock, depending on your tolerance. I'm going to take my medication and I take my prescription if I had to take it down with something so that it's not going to disrupt me, because certain medicines, if you eat it on an empty stomach, it's going to cause nausea and all that. Do it ahead of time so that then when the sun sets, you can go into the fast, eat nor drink anything. And then after the sun sets on Friday night, then you can go in 6:35, 6:40. And then take your medication with your food. So 24 hours may extend to 24 hours in 10 minutes or 5 minutes, so that you don't break not being able to take your medications within a 24-hour period if you're on strict with medicines. So if you are able to, you got time to start trying to change or alter when you take the medicines so that you can do it in a manner that you can still take it, keep the fast, and then afterwards be able to now jump back on to your medications. All right. So again, the Day of Atonement is spiritual. It's just not about the carnal, not eating and not drinking anything. It's a requirement, but it's about being able to reconcile back to the Most High. We know that we're not perfect in all things. We have a sincere heart. Our desire is not to sin and break the commandments, but still we know that if we want to humble ourselves before the Most High and Yahushua, He's given us an opportunity to come stand before him and repent, ask for forgiveness, right? Try to abound in the fruits of the spirit of that day. That's what the fast is going to do. You're going to have carnal desires, but you're going to try to overpower them with spiritual, right? So if you think carnally, then it's going to stay carnal. So the intent is to try to be spiritually minded on that day. We're going to go through scriptures and we're going to go through a service. We're not going to feast, of course, but we're going to go through things that pertain to the memorial and importance of that day. Just again, for those who may not know, anybody's watching newly, if you want to provide a donation or an offering, you can send your donations and offerings into Hayashrala Kanas, 3826B, Germantown Avenue, Philadelphia, PA 19140. If you missed it, you can replay back the video. Again, it must have Hayashrala Kanas on it for any check or money order. If you want to send a digital offering, tithes, or payment, you can do it in two manners, through PayPal or Zelle, paypal.me/HYK12, and then through Zelle with the number 646-620-7378. And again, if you miss anything, or if you're with somebody and they didn't get it, if I click off, then you can just go back to the video as they're all saved on YouTube. But those who want to join us for our Tuesday and Friday night classes, this is a teleconference line. But if you can't dial in on your phones through Zoom, you can call in 677-770-1085. Again, that's 677-770-1085 with the PIN being 521-455. PIN again is 521-455 for the teleconference line. And that's on Tuesdays and Fridays. We start around 7 o'clock to when we end. But preferably, we ask that folks log on through the Zoom call, which is profitabletalks.com, right? And that's profitabletalks.com, where you can come on with your camera. It's as if we're all physically sitting together, but it's using the medium of the computer or the phone, and we can see each other as we break bread spiritually. All right. So again, that's profitabletalks.com. So with that, I'm going to say Ashar Shabbat, happy Sabbath. Most High's will, everybody has a Tawab remaining Sabbath. Elder Kanawoya, Ashar Shabbat. Elder gave some suggestions: macaroni, tuna, lettuce, pasta, different things that you can prepare and eat, right? Once we break the fast coming in Friday. All right. So with that, we'll say Shalom. Again, Ashar Shabbat, happy Sabbath, and stay tuned for the closing prayers. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathan Lanawa, Par Yahagapin, Thawada Amun, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ath Yasha Ella. Again, the English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. I model upon you, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem for the closing prayers.
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Ba'asham,
Ba'asham,
Yahweh Shai,
Yahushua,
Babakushah,
Yahushua,
Shemai,
Shemai,
Lenawa,
Lenawa,
Aitha,
Aitha,
Yum Yun,
Yum Yum,
Aitha,
Aitha,
Shalak,
Shalak,
Maya Ka'ala,
Ma'aka'ala,
Waha Alahayim,
Allahayim,
Tazwadakim,
Tazadakim,
La,
La,
Shemal Ayah,
Shema'ah,
Barak,
Barak,
Rapah,
Rapah,
Magun,
Magan,
Wahakaziyat,
Wahaziyat,
Banya,
Banya,
Yasha'ala,
Yasharala,
Washalak,
Washalak,
Lenawa,
Lenawa,
Rabium,
Rabi,
Kakama,
Kakama,
Rabium,
Rabi,
Da'ai,
Da'ai,
Rabium,
Rabi,
Bayana,
Bayana,
Rabium,
Rabi,
Sabalongwa,
Sabalama,
Rabium,
Rabi,
Amawan,
Amawan,
Rabium,
Rabi,
Aqua,
Aqua,
Rabium,
Rabi,
Ahabium,
Ahabi,
Rabium,
Rabi,
Haganah,
Haganah,
Rochanaya,
Rochanaya,
Wasalat,
Wasalat,
Ko,
Kal,
Katayamnawa,
Katayamnawa,
Laha'akim,
La'akim,
Wa'akwa,
Wa'akiwa,
Wayasha'ala,
Wayasharala,
Thum Yad,
Thumyad,
Waiwalam,
Waiwalam,
Bahasham,
Hashem,
Yahawashai,
Yahushua,
Thawada,
Thawada,
Aman.
Aman.
English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers or angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection. And forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters and Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahushua, thank you, so be it. Four Corners Prayer. Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Ba'asham,
Ba'asham,
Yahushai,
Yahushua,
Barak Nawa,
Barak Nawa,
Wayasha'ala,
Yasharala,
Wabatya Sapariam,
Bafya Sapari,
Shema,
Shema,
Yasharala,
Yasharala,
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Allahayanawa,
Yahweh,
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 Akar. English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless us and Israel in the house of books or schools. And Deuteronomy 6:4, hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. That, again, we'll say Ashar Shabbat and Shalom Yasha'ala. Happy Sabbath.
Shalom.
Shalom.